Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming along to our monthly RTD webinar. This is the second one of these events that we've run now, and it's great to see that certainly the registrations have increased from last month, which is really good. So hopefully you're getting some value out of these sessions, and it's just one of the sort of value propositions that we're offering back to our members to try and help encourage your ongoing understanding of some of the things that we're doing and best practice across the wider industry. So the focus for today will be on our road asset benchmarking project, which we'll go into in a bit more detail, sort of the history behind that. I'm joined today presenting by two of our colleagues from the Australasia office. So Steve Verity and Lisa Rapana are here to present some of the information about this project, and they're quite integral to this project. So this has been a really good partnership between us at the state level and the guys at the national office as well. So I'll jump into the slides. So the agenda for today's webinar, there's a few items that we're going to cover. As I mentioned, I will provide a bit of a background to the benchmarking survey. It's been running for quite a long time, and some of you may not be across the sort of full history of the project. I'll talk about some of the key results from last time we did the survey, changes we've made off the back of that, and the learnings from last time that are feeding into the data collection process for this year. We'll provide some key information about dates and information as to how you can get greater support. And I suppose the main part here is that they'll have a demonstration of the data collection portal, which has changed somewhat since the last time. So those who have completed the data input process in the past will note that there's been some significant differences. Q&A, we'll have some time at the end for Q&A, but mindful that this is a sort of town hall setup and that you can't actually turn on your mic or your camera to ask questions. So we do have the chat function and the Q&A function live at the moment. So if you have any questions as we're going through, pop them in either the chat or the Q&A, and we'll endeavour to answer those either as we go through or at the end of the session. So in terms of the background to this project, the asset benchmarking project has been running for about 20 years now. So it's a longitudinal study in the sense that we, because we've done it every 2 to 3 years, we can pick up trend data as to the status of the local road network and the condition of the assets across it. And so that's really powerful for a number of reasons. One, we've got that, that trend data there that the government can sort of track, that we can use to say, well, the investments over time have led to increases or decreases in capacity or condition rating. And I think that just really helps increase the weight with which our advocacy efforts are held, particularly at a state level. And that also has some really key learnings to feed back into local government then to say, well, look, between a particular period of time, we might have improved in some areas but declined in others, and that can put a bit of a focus on further improvement that may be needed in terms of council practices or other priorities for IPWA indeed to look at as well. And look, there's quite a few metrics that we track. We tend to not change those because obviously the continuity of that data is very important, and if you change anything, if you remove anything that you've had in place for 20 years, you can't get that back anymore. So we are reluctant to ever sort of alter that too much, but we do sort of tweak it around the edges. And as I said, we'll cover some more of the changes a little bit later in this webinar. The previous survey from last time. Now, just a comment or a note about the year notation here. We call this the 2023 report. That's because it was published in 2023, but the data was actually collected in 2022. So we do the data collection every 2 years, hence the data collection we're calling the 2024 data collection, but the results themselves will not be published until 2025. So I just wanted to clarify that. We don't do this every year. It's every 2 years at a maximum. But anyway, some of the key results you can see on the screen there. Look, I will speak to these in a bit more detail, and I might even defer to Steve on some of these points as well. But the gross replacement value of the local road network, $87 billion, we consider it one of, if not the largest public asset classes in New South Wales. So it's a very significant asset class, and I think that sort of highlights the important role that council road managers play in that sense. 1 in 3 councils do not have a system in place to manage road-related risks. So that's somewhat concerning. And that's one of the key outcomes that we are hoping we can see some improvement on this time. And the second one there is integration. 2/3 of councils do not consider their asset management plan in their long-term financial plan. So that's really linking those two important pieces of work within your council together, and we're not necessarily seeing that. And I believe we've actually seen a decline on that particular metric over time. Steve, I know you're much more across this than I am. I don't know if you wanted to comment further on one of those last 2 points.
Oh, those who know me well would immediately focus and target on this need for aligning asset management lifecycle forecasts, cash you need, with the realities of what's being made available in a long-term financial plan. And where there is misalignment, we need to ensure that we do have alignment, because that's only then can we really communicate the trade-offs on performance, cost and risk. And over time, since the benchmarking project has been in play, we've seen a gradual decline in that alignment between the life cycle forecast and the asset plan with the cash made available in a long-term financial plan.
Thanks, Steve. So look, that's maybe something that, again, we'll get another snapshot of this later this year, but one maybe for the people on this webinar to take away. And if you're aware that there's not alignment between those two plans, that might be something you want to have a look at, or at least take to your council executive to have a look at as well. And certainly we're happy to get involved in those discussions if and when it gets to that point. The last point there is that the maintenance and renewal shortfall on an annual basis last time around was 680 million. That is also increasing based on some of the previous surveys as well. Somewhat not surprising given the natural disasters that we've had over the last couple of years, but again, we want to hopefully see that reducing, and ultimately we'd love it to be at zero, but that's something that we're working towards over many years. Steve, I don't know if you wanted to comment on that last point at all.
Yeah, look, it's more of a secondary indicator, a gap in maintenance and renewal against a useful life estimate of our assets at a point in time is just indicating that we're spending less than what the long-term average should be. So that doesn't mean it's a bad thing or necessarily a good thing. All depends on where your assets are in their life cycle and what your appetite is for risk. So sure, we can reduce the gap. That may suggest that we're in a phase of renewal and addressing those aging assets. That's really, what's that? That's what that indicator's focusing on. It's a measure in the benchmarking report. It has been since the project commenced many years ago, 10 years or more ago now. And we've seen this increase and decrease over that time. So, but it has been a good measure of an evidence base to source additional funding to address that short-term gap in maintenance and renewal.
Great, thanks, Steve. So I'll jump over to the changes for the 2024 data collection process. The main one, or the major one that we wanted to call out, is that traditionally we have captured high-level data of roads and bridge assets, and then have gone into detail on timber bridge assets specifically, and that was largely off the back of the work that we've done with Transport for New South Wales on the Fixed In-Country Bridges program. So the data from this project was used to sort of partly justify the need for that funding stream many years ago. Based on what we've been hearing and some research that's been happening in the industry, there's a concern that apart from the timber bridges, we also need to start looking at some of those aging concrete and steel structures. So we've expanded the data collection for the detailed section on bridges to encompass not just timber bridges, but all bridge structures. So that's a fairly significant change, and it will mean that councils who traditionally haven't had to fill out that section of the report because they don't have any more timber bridges, we'll be asking them to go back in and fill that out for the other structures on their networks. And we've restructured the templates, the forms, to reflect that as well. So you'll see that when Lisa runs through it a little bit later, but yeah, there's a fair change to the way that those data fields are captured now. But I'd like to point out that even though we've restructured things, the data points are still valid. So we will have historical reflections of that data for the timber bridge assets. We'll be creating a new suite of data for the non-timber bridge assets. In terms of the reporting, we will still issue the 2 reports. We'll have the road focused report, and we'll have the what was the timber bridge report will just be a bridge focused report, which will encompass both the timber bridge data and this new data set that we'll be collecting from this year onwards. And so that's what's really led to the restructuring of the layouts of the forms. I flagged there as well that there's some additional questions that we include each year, just due to the rise in, I guess, AI assisted or AI, you know, data collection processes that are out there in the industry. And I will flag that, you know, we're obviously fairly involved with that with our own Asset AI project. We're just trying to get a sense as to how engaged councils are with the use of that technology. And so we've got a couple of questions in there that are designed to pick that up. And now there's some key data fields that we just wanted to call out. So every year when we ask people to fill out this data, you know, the hope is that you will fill out every single data field. We accept that that may not be realistic and that everyone has time constraints and can't always have the data to fill out every one of those fields. But we've flagged a number of key data fields that we are, you know, putting as mandatory that we, you know, would love everyone to fill out. So Steve, I don't know if you wanted to run through those very quickly.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Yeah, so listed here we've got life cycle expenditure by asset class. So as it suggests here, this is the cash that you have spent on the roads, sealed and unsealed, and concrete and timber bridges. So maintenance, CapEx renewal, and CapEx acquisition, i.e. upgrade new assets. That number feeds into the second 2, which gives us the shortfall, an indication of the shortfall, because the average cost per unit of measure is what cash you would need to spend to maintain the useful life of the asset. So it's a cost per kilometre of road or per square metre of concrete or timber bridge. So it's not a simple what we spent compared to the length or square metre of the bridge. It's what you need to spend. So that's the difference. So we've noticed over the years in analysing the data, some are putting the spend in, the expenditure, but are leaving the average cost per unit of measure blank. That's not very helpful when we're looking at the shortfall or the gap in the funding needed. So it's absolutely critical that the average cost per unit of measure data field is actually populated with your best estimate of cost to replace a bridge, to upgrade the bridge, or to maintain the bridge. Same for sealed and unsealed roads. And that third dot point there around the average useful life of the asset, because we acknowledge that all assets, even in a similar type of asset, so say timber bridges, do have varying useful lives. Some are shorter, some are longer, for a variety of reasons. So we're asking for the average, and this is your best estimate, technical assessment of the useful life of those roads and structures. All that feeds into the model to determine the life cycle funding gap for the benchmarking report. So they're the 3 data fields in the whole survey where we think, where we've observed that there needs to be greater focus on from the officer completing the survey. Not saying that the other data fields are important. There's data fields there around road network performance, which is condition, function, capacity. What proportion of the replacement cost is in good, fair, poor condition, function, capacity. That's absolutely critical. And most of you are doing that, which is really good. And also keeping your plans up to date. So that is a question that is asked, and most of you are updating that information for us as well. So that's another key metric in the benchmarking report. But these three points here around expenditure, cost, and useful life, they're the ones we see and would love to see you updating those numbers as a priority. Thanks, Josh.
Great, thanks, Steve. Okay, so in regard to key information about the project and the data collection process this year, so we are just at the beginning or just about to start the process. Data collection will open on Monday the 2nd of September, so that's Monday next week, and run for about 2 months, closing on the 1st of November. I would say there's a little bit of flexibility with that 1 November deadline. If that's not sufficient time, please let us know. I've already had a couple of councils reach out about that deadline, and there is a degree of flexibility there. But you know, our aim is going to be to try and capture all of the data, or most of the data during that 2-month period, and look to, I guess, support that. We'll certainly be promoting that through our communications at a New South Wales level, through our chapter meetings, which are taking place. The first one commenced yesterday, so they're happening across the state over the next couple of months as well. And we have sent out a couple of EOIs to get the relevant contact details of the correct person at your council for this project, and we've had quite a few councils respond, but we haven't heard from all of them. So if you haven't, or if you're the right person, or the right person at your council, please just send through to us the contact details so we can be coming to the right person. There's sort of limited value in going to your directors and managers if they're going to just pass it down the line anyway. So we'd rather be talking to the actual asset managers who are going to be undertaking the data input. And then sort of the rest of the project moving forward, as I've outlined there, there'll be a stage of results analysis, report writing. There'll be, I think, 1 or 2 iterations of that report, and we've got a review process that we've done in the past, and that'll happen sort of the first part of next year, with the initial results being shared at the Local Roads Congress in early June next year, before we publish by the end of the financial year. So and as we have done in previous years, we'll be making those reports, both the roads and the bridges reports, available to every council in New South Wales. We always send out a hard copy to your mayors and general managers so that everyone's got access to that data, because regardless of whether you're an RTD member or not, we think this is of critical importance that everyone has an understanding as to the state of the local road network across New South Wales. Okay, so I might pass over to Lisa now, who's going to run through a bit of a demonstration of the data collection portal. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks. Thanks, Josh. Just sharing my screen now. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yep, fantastic. Okay, hi everyone. So I guess the first thing, I'm just going to start from the beginning, just for those that haven't been on the platform or haven't had to log in on the platform before. The benchmarking app is on the IPWEA Plus platform. It's a national platform, so you will need a national IPWEA account, which is different from your IPWEA New South Wales account. When you log in, if you don't have an account, or if you've forgotten your password, you can create an account here, which will then give you access. There's a security group set up around New South Wales councils. So if you are logging in a council, then you will automatically get access. Once you're in the system, and I'll go back to the beginning there because I've snuck ahead. This is what the IPWEA Plus platform looks like. So If you've got an NAMS Plus or an eBooks Plus, or you've done any work with Fleet, and the National State of the Assets will be there, you'll see these tabs along the top. That's it. The benchmarking one is here, so you just have to click on it and it takes you straight into the benchmarking app. The difference with anyone that was using it last year is that we now have an extra button because we have the previous year's data in this system. So, and we've also preloaded the data into the current screen. So you can go straight in and update the current year, but then if you change details and want to see, okay, what did I do last year, you can always go back and review those results as well. When you're in the system, it's been divided into the 5 categories. As soon as you click into one of these areas, you'll have the previous data that's been loaded and can go through and change that. If you want to exit without saving, you just click on the back button and it will take you straight back. If you're in the system and you're making updates, and then you step away from your computer, I would remind you that to make sure that you click that save button, that because of the cybersecurity on the system, it will automatically log you out after a period of no activity. Usually it's about an hour. So just always good to get into the habit of saving those details. The other thing that you can do is that you can use the create document function at any time. That allows you to download a document with all of the questions and any of the fields that are saved into it. And it allows you to take it away and fill out those details and then come back and do it just purely as a data entry process instead of going through and sort of finding the information and then going off and getting it. Once I save that, it automatically will change the color. We've color coded everything. Anyone that knows me knows that I love to color code everything. So it basically will step you through. So when you see something in orange, it's in progress. If I then take it and say, okay, well, now I've completed my details, it's ready to be signed off, it goes to blue. And then you can either you go in and save it. You can, of course, skip the steps. But if, say, you've got a manager that's coming in or someone that a supervisor that you want them to sign off, you can get them to go in, check it off and save it. Once it's signed off, it is no longer editable. So if you accidentally sign off and then need to come back and you realize that you've left a 0 off or haven't answered a question correctly, just contact and reach out to the support team, and we can roll it back and allow that to be editable again. As Josh mentioned and Steve mentioned, there's been a few changes just around the expenditure cost and average useful life. If you're unclear of any of the terminology, there's these little help buttons beside which will pop up and give you a clearer idea of exactly what they mean. I don't have it on this one because this is my dummy account, but you will see there might be some zeros in the data fields. If you see those zeros, they're fields that really we would like you to enter data in. They're things that Steve, when he's doing his data analysis, needs those fields. And so if you see a 0 there and you haven't entered data previously, then please just enter that. The movement of fields around, if you refer back to previous years, you will see that there's been a bit of change just in moving fields around, slightly different layout. It hasn't changed too much. But again, if with the bridges and merging the timber bridges and sort of having those categories, you'll see that there's a clear capture for both concrete and steel and timber bridges all the way through, and again focusing on that expenditure, average cost and average useful life. I think that's about it. It's a pretty simple system. Has anyone got any questions, or are there any questions on that to go through? It's probably faster than what you thought it was going to be, isn't it, Josh?
Very efficient, very efficient.
I tried not to speak too fast.
No, you're right, Lisa. And look, we certainly we're conscious that there could be quite a few questions coming out of this session, so we did allow a bit of extra time in there. But I guess the point I'd highlight, and Lisa's certainly already made this point, is that there are a lot of little prompts and tooltips and things in there. So, if you do get stuck, that should be your first port of call, is just have a look at those little prompts, and hopefully that will give you some guidance as to the best way to go. This terminology and all the definitions are derived from the the IIM and the sort of the best practice documentation out of National's office. So, you should hopefully be familiar with this if you've done asset management for any period of time. But yeah, beyond that, there is certainly some more support, which I'll go to in a bit more detail in a moment. But yeah, I think it's fairly, it should be fairly straightforward, and we've tried to structure it in a way that hopefully will flow reasonably logically as well. So you can sort of see with thanks, Lisa. We go up to that level, with the bridges, we've grouped sort of like items together, broken it down into sort of two separate categories. Obviously starting general with your higher level information before you go more detailed into the roads and bridge sections, and then the other stuff is all the ancillary questions that I've referenced earlier that we sort of want from I guess it informs our work, and it was certainly something that we look into. We don't report on all of these metrics, but it does help us understand the needs of the industry and the needs of practitioners such as yourself, so we can better tailor both our advocacy but also our training and events and those sorts of things. So that's sort of why I request that you have a look at those questions as well. All right, well, look, thanks, Lisa. Were there any particular questions at the moment while we've got the portal up? So we look at the chat.
Hubert's raised a good question.
So the question was, with bridges, how do we manage composite timber and concrete decks? Steve, did you want to field that one? I think, yeah.
Sure. Look, good question, Hubert. So there's no right or wrong answer here. I guess the bottom line is, as long as we've accounted for all those structures. So if you think it's more timber than concrete or steel, put it in the timber bridge field. If you think it's more concrete and steel than timber, put it in the concrete data field. So there's no hard and fast rule, and there's no clear distinction. Bottom line is, as long as we're accounting for all those structures, that's the imperative.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Steve. And I see, so there's a couple of questions here about will this session be recorded? Yes, it is being recorded, and it will be made available through the New South Wales website, through the RTD Technical Library, so you'll be able to access that after today. All right, well, if there's no more questions on the portal, I'll jump back into my slides. So, yeah, thanks, Lisa for that. And look, in terms of support, we're mindful that we've been doing this project for quite a few years, and there's varying levels of support that council officers may need to help with completion of this project. So I've listed, I guess, the gambit of support options there, broadly from sort of first intervention all the way down. The RTD team, so me and my team, are certainly here and able to support you. So if you do have any questions that you're not sure on, feel free just to either reach out to us via email or via phone call. Yeah, our email address should be fairly easy to find, but we'll certainly send that out to all the attendees today if you don't have that. The tooltips, which you've already mentioned, they're embedded throughout the portal, so they're quite handy. There's a user guide that Lisa's put together along with some tutorial videos. So both of those we will make available to all the councils who are completing this project as well. And that's got, well, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, but the user guide sort of it shows in detail effectively what you just showed then. It
just steps you through all of pretty much everything that, well, actually everything that I've told you is in the user guide.
Yeah, and similarly with the videos, I presume.
Same with the video, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So, and then regards to, I guess, support, if there's any technical type questions that come up, please, send those through to us, and we'll sort of triage them. If they're ones that we can answer, then we will absolutely get back to you. But if not, then we'll defer to Steve and his team for any sort of really technical type questions. And then in terms of IT support, if you're having issues accessing the portal, please do reach out to Lisa and her team, and they'll be able to assist with getting access. As you've said, Lisa, it's a different login, so just be mindful that if you try and log in with your New South Wales account, it's not going to work. So you need to make sure you've got a national one. And correct me if I'm wrong, but creating a national account log on is free. Is that correct?
It is. Yeah. It is free. If you are a New South Wales member, reach out and create your account, and then reach out if you haven't already got one, because there are discounts that you get on the on the national website as well. So, but yeah, it's completely free if you want to just log in and update the data.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so look, we've got through this a little bit quicker than I had thought, but as I said, we've left plenty of time for questions. So, are there any particular questions from the audience, from those that we may not have answered already? I'm not seeing anything in the chat, but I'll give people a little bit of time to post anything that they may think of. There's the RTD email address, as I said. So please reach out to us if you have any questions. And then there's the link there to get access to the portal as well. So we'll, as I said, you'll be able to access this with the recording as well, and we'll circulate some information about this to all of the attendees from today's session. So look, I'm not seeing any questions pop up. So we'll give everyone half an hour of their day back. But just a quick plug. Our next webinar will be taking place in about 4 weeks' time, on the 25th of September. We have got the Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water, also known as DQ, coming to talk about their low carbon concrete specifications that they've just released. So we'll send out some more information about that, but you can see the registration link there. So hopefully, you found today's session informative. I'm hopeful that you can make it to the webinar in 4 weeks' time. And I'd like to say thank you very much to Steve and Lisa for coming along today and providing an overview of this project. So, and look, please reach out to us with any questions you have about the benchmarking, and we'll be in touch very soon. All right, thanks everyone.